name is Kyle Rudkin. I'm here to give you some recommendations for some of the greatest pieces of media and overall fiction I think have ever been made. First on the list is Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Now, this is written by Rick Riordan and was my first real introduction to the genre of fantasy. It surrounds one of its strongest points of writing, I believe, is how it depicted things that many people struggled with as kids, including myself. ADHD, dyslexia, many other kinds of issues that would injure people's chances in school and would make them feel like an outcast. The magic of Riordan's writing is taking that and making it, instead of seeming like some kind of flaw that damages who you are as a person, rather his writing almost teaches us to embrace that. He says that in this book, the demigods, the protagonists of the story, they have ADHD, dyslexia, all kinds of things that society tells them is a problem, an issue with them. But instead it's because their brain is rewired very differently from the average person to better suit them for battle, because they're half God, and that is brilliant writing. I have to give him props for that. Second on the list, though, is the most classic of all classic books in terms of fantasy, The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. One could say that this novel was the world's first true introduction to the fantasy genre. And Tolkien was an absolute genius. His works continue to be the source of inspiration for almost every single piece of fantasy style fiction that exists to this very day. And I guess that's all to be said about him, really. He gets all of the credit he deserves. Next up is something a little different. It's a manga, One Piece. Now, little known fact about One Piece, despite being made over 58 years after its conception, it has now fully outsold Superman in copies sold worldwide, with over 500 million copies. That is incredibly impressive. And to sum it up, Ichiro Oda's One Piece is a story about a young man, Monkey D. Luffy, who wants to become king of the pirates. But it goes much deeper than that. It's a story about freedom, oppression from higher powers. It's a story about the conflict between the rules that the world will set for you and your personal morals and what they tell you is right. It is a masterful piece of fiction, and I could not recommend it enough. But next up is another manga, and I felt that in the light of the author Akira Toriyama's recent passing by the time of the filming of this video, I had to mention it. Dragon Ball. I was about 9 years old when I watched Dragon Ball for the first time with my father on Nickelodeon, and it has stuck with me to this very day. It is the first piece of fiction I've truly appreciated for almost my whole life now. And I genuinely think it's shaped much of the man I am today. So, in light of that, Akira Toriyama, thank you. Rest in peace. You're going to be missed by so many people. But on a much lighter note, my next up on shopping block is Baldur's Gate 3. It's a video game, and good enough for those of us who can't find people to play D&D with. This is a single-player video game alternative. Same mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons and everything. It's a story about survival, companionship, and sacrifice. And I think that it has really deserved its ranking as 2023's Game of the Year. And lastly, but definitely not least, the Elder Scrolls franchise. Now, the Elder Scrolls, in great part due to the work of former Bethesda writer Michael Kirkbride, it's one of the most unique and intricate worlds I have ever read. It is most prevalent in the third installment of the franchise, Morrowind, because that's when Michael Kirkbride was most hands-on by that point. He blends serious subject matter with dark undertones and hilarious comedy to form this amalgamation that produces some of the most fascinating and just complex lore I think has ever been written. And it's for a video game, no less. Thank you for your time. These have been my recommendations. Have a wonderful day.